you're never going to know everything. I think people need to understand that. It's like you just have to decide one day, it's like, this is enough and I'm going to figure it on the fly. Like my first little side hustle was selling like jailbreaking iPod touches to kids in elementary school.
Oh, that's an entrepreneur right there.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about the constraints as well. Like,
yes.
Believe it or not, constraints aren't negative. If you learn to operate under a constraint, you're so much more effective when you don't have that constraint. So don't just dive into like a completely unconstrained schedule or unconstrained day. Like if you are working a 9 to 5, don't get me wrong, it's hard as hell to do this. But if you're working a 9 to 5 and you have 6 to 8, try running that business 6 to 8 first.
Like I made this absolutely horrible deal and I would get 0.005% of the building purchase price of like what you would buy.
What? Let's hypothetically say Emir has to start at 0 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you lose all the connections that you have. You're not in any of these communities or whatever.
Yeah.
How would you approach the process of starting an AI and automation company from scratch?
Well, seriously, I would probably...
Hey, this is how one of my earliest Make Money with Make members quit his job and then scaled his agency to $12,500 a month in just a few months. Emir, what's going on, big dog? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Excited to get to finally put a face to a name and chat with you. I've been watching your YouTube videos for a while, so it's cool to actually meet you in person.
Likewise, man. Super stoked on your growth over the course of the last half year. I know that you've already added a ton of value back to Make Money with Make, the first community that I think you joined more than half a year ago.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about that journey, and I know there have been some ups and downs. Let's get into all this. Where are you based out of?
I am based in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Saskatoon. That sounds like a fairy tale place.
Yeah. It doesn't sound real, right?
I don't think I've ever heard of Saskatoon before. Yeah. What's life like down there, man?
Saskatoon, it's honestly, there's not a whole lot going on. I would argue like you're familiar with Edmonton. It's like a lot smaller Edmonton, basically. So you spend a lot of time indoors, -50 winters, you know how it is. Yeah.
-50, man? Hold on. Is this -50 for our freedom-loving friends or -50 for like Canadians?
For Canadians.
Holy crap, man. I've hit some cold days. Like it was -34 or something in Calgary a while back, but -50? Whew.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what you need all that money for, huh? Really thick gloves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Emir, how much did you make in the last 30 days with your automation business?
$12,500.
Holy, man.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me about that. How's the journey been?
Yeah, so the journey's pretty crazy, like how I even got into this. So I initially like started my career in mechanical engineering. I worked in the potash mining industry, essentially like fertilizer mining. And I had this cool opportunity where right out of school, I did my internship there and they're like, hey, if you start a business, we'll hire you on like a 6-month contract. That 6 months turned into like 4 years. And in that time, like I learned a whole lot about like project management and all this stuff. And it's funny enough that like now my business, the tools I was using back then to like manage my life, like ClickUp and Airtable, is like what I'm helping businesses implement now. So it's like kind of came full circle. Yeah, in a sense. Yeah. So yeah, I did that for about 4 years and just like, I was actually watching one of your daily updates, you know, a few days ago, and you were talking about how you were about to launch this business in COVID, and you woke up one morning and you're like, man, I can't do this, right? I had that same feeling where I was like, I woke up one morning and I was like, I can't go to work anymore. I just like felt empty, you know? And I was like, I need to go find something new to do. I'd always been obsessed with like technology and I grew up in like an entrepreneurial family. So I was like, I need to do something related to tech. Funnily enough, like my first little side hustle was selling like jailbreaking iPod touches to kids in elementary school.
So, oh, that's an entrepreneur right there.
Yeah. So, you know, started there. And so I was like, okay, what do I do now? It's like, I need to learn sales to run a business, right? That was like the first thing I thought. I need to learn how to code. So I was about to go to the University of Calgary. There's like a master's program for engineers for like a master's of software engineering. I was like, oh, I'm going to go do this. Like, this makes a lot of sense. Then, you know, you do the math and like we have the internet now and it's like, why don't I just like teach myself to code? Right?
Yeah.
So I started teaching myself to code and also got a job at like a managed service provider here in town as a business analyst. So I got to work with like a variety of businesses, analyzing their tech stack and seeing kind of what they were doing. And I did that for like about a month. And then the sales director got wind that I was like a really good project manager. They're like, hey man, like we want to migrate from like HubSpot to Salesforce. Can you like help manage this project? I was like, what in the world is like a CRM? Like, I don't even know what this is. Like, but I was like, yeah, sure. Like, why not? Because I wanted to get more sales experience and like getting exposed to them. I was like, oh, maybe there'll be like an opportunity to get a more like consultative sales role in the business. So did that for 4 months. And then they asked me, they're like, okay, what do you want to do now? You want to go back to your old job or do you want a sales job? And I was like, well, they just had come out with this new role where it's like a mini CIO for small businesses, like a technology advisor. And I
Interesting.
was
CIO meaning Chief Integration Officer, typically?
information officer, like
Nice.
basically like small businesses who don't have an IT department themselves, they would hire us. And then part of my role was almost like customer success and sales combined, where I would just essentially keep the client happy, retention, and figure out ways we could like help their technology stack improve, basically. So I absolutely crushed it. Came naturally to me because I love tech. I hated inefficiency. I was like, let me like help these people. So I did that for about a year. And in that time, I found your YouTube channel. So I was still like trying to learn to code while I was doing this because I wanted to start that business on my own eventually anyway. And I was getting the B2B sales experience. This feels more aligned. Like it feels more practical. Like the Make Money with Make, just the name of like your program, right? Like it was just like, this is actually practical, no fluff. I tried to like learn some stuff from a guy who like used to work at Make. He posted like a tutorial thing on YouTube. And it was the most technical thing on planet Earth. Like it was just like, this doesn't make any sense. I was like, at least like I have an engineering degree, so I understand a little bit of this stuff. And like, but like most people would just be completely lost trying to watch this guy's YouTube channel. And then you came out, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. And I'm pretty sure I've never commented on a YouTube video before. And it was just like one of your first videos. I was like, man, like, thank you for doing this. The other people out here just like don't know what they're doing. They're just making it way too complicated. So that's kind of how we ended up. And then I didn't take any action. Watch your YouTube videos, didn't take any action.
The classic, yeah.
The classic, right? So I was like, yeah, you know, I'm like worried about like, is this a conflict of interest with like my existing job and like all this stuff, right? So there's like that element of it. Yeah, that was like probably like last May, maybe. I like been comfortable enough and confident enough that I knew what I was doing, but I didn't do anything till like October. So at one point I was just like, I've saved enough money from, you know, the jobs I've had. I can live without like making any money for like a year was my plan. I was like, if I don't make $1 from this, at least I know I tried, you know, like I was like, at least I gave it a good solid effort. So I was like, you know what? I just got to quit. Like just burn the boats. And like, I don't recommend this to people. Like if people ask me, like, unless you've got like money in the bank, like do not do this. Like this is a bad idea. But I'm pretty sure in my message, like I sent you, you even said, you're like, it's good to have that safety net in a sense, because you won't feel stressed of like taking all these bad deals or like, you know, figuring out where you're going to eat from and all that stuff. Right. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, I entirely know what you mean. I get so many people that are just like, hey man, I'm about to burn every bridge in my life and just do AI and automation. I have $53 and a toothpick in my pocket and I think I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like, relax, man. Can you just keep going for a little? Okay, real talk though. The benefit of having a job or any sort of revenue stability is just that it allows you to like go up a little bit, see a little bit further. You're not constantly looking at your shoes in the dirt, you know, being like, oh my God, you know, like, how do I take that next step forward? You have the, I want to say, privilege of being able to invest a little bit of money in things that might move you a little bit further, but take a little bit of risk as well. And I mean, I had to add this to like my VSL, video sales letter for my communities, but like, if you're not in a financial position where you're like 100% confident that this is the right move, and it sounds like you were because you had some backing, you had some savings or whatever, there's nothing wrong with having a job. Like there's no ego in here. We're just looking for the straightest line path to more revenue, to more money. Automation's obviously much higher leverage than working like the standard 9 to 5 for the vast majority of industries. So that's the determination you should make, not the whole like, I'm self-employed and I got to burn all the bridges. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Emir.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's like, don't get me wrong, even before I quit my job, I was still working on this stuff, like taking fake action in a sense. I wasn't applying to jobs and stuff, but I was like, you know, learning more and doing things in the morning before my actual job. So I think there is that window of like 6 a.m. to like 8 a.m. that people need to take advantage of and explore these things, right? If you don't and you just like go all in, like you're gonna, like you said, you're looking at your shoes, you're like, where do I go from here? So
there's something to be said about the constraints as well. Like, believe it or not, constraints aren't negative. If you learn to operate under a constraint, you're so much more effective when you don't have that constraint. So don't just dive into like a completely unconstrained schedule or unconstrained day. Like if you are working a 9 to 5, don't get me wrong, it's hard as hell to do this. But if you're working a 9 to 5 and you have 6 to 8, try running that business 6 to 8 first before you try running it, 6 to freaking 9. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, 7 days a week. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, I cut you off a little bit there. What happened next?
Yeah. So I ended up quitting October, and the day before my last day, I got my first client off Upwork.
Holy.
Like,
Man, you weren't
talking
even
about like,
gone yet?
I wasn't even gone. Just talking about like serendipity in a sense. Like, it was just like, this is like meant to be. This is amazing. Like, let's do this. So yeah, landed that first client, went really well. Built like this really interesting automation. He would get leads from like a pixel for his clients, and we would analyze like all the web pages they visited and like figure out their intent of like what they were thinking of buying, and then like piping those over to their CRM, which is pretty cool.
Damn. Yeah, that does sound really cool. Gee,
Yeah.
that was your intro to automation?
Yeah,
Doing like another email autoresponder? Like that
no,
actually sounds
it
like
wasn't nothing basic. No, it was just like this guy was like getting creative. He's like, I want to like get into data instead of just like marketing services. It's like, okay, sure, like let's try it. Let's say no.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Did you was this like a one-off initially? You said you got him through Upwork.
Yeah, so it was just like that was the one-off, and then he just like kept asking for more things, and then he referred me to his friend, who's like still like one of my top clients today. So like that's pretty cool. There was like some funny stories that I can share of like Upwork situations. Like there was this one.
Oh, please.
There's this one where this guy was like a real estate investor, and he initially came to me for like Airtable help. I like told him like, this is not the constraint in your business. Like the constraint in your business is like, you actually need to go buy more buildings. Like you're just not talking to enough people. And like, I sold him on the cold email stuff. Right. But the deal was absolutely horrible. Like I was like, yeah, it'll be like $250. Like I just like, and like I made this absolutely horrible deal. And I would get 0.005% of the building purchase price of like what you would buy.
What? Okay, bro. So wait, you did like a share, like a share on a freaking building purchase price for one. That's insane. Yeah. And then for two, your freaking revenue thing was 0.005.
Yeah. So it's like it was like $10 million. If you bought a $10 million building, I would get $5,000. It was like horrible.
That's very interesting, Emir.
That's what he pitched, because he didn't want to pay for it. He just says like, you don't know what you're doing. You've never done this before. And I was like, okay, like let's figure out a deal. Like, he just did not want to pay for it. It's like, and then I realized I was like, I'm going to be paying for this guy's like smart lead and like scraping all these leads for like, how long does it take to buy a $10 million building? Like 6 months, a year? I was like, there's no way this is going to work.
Holy dude. I've never set anything up like that myself. That's wild.
It was a very bad deal. So anyways, I just like, it felt horrible. And I was like, there's no way. Like, so like we agreed to it verbally, and I'm just like, I sent him a proposal, and he's like, I don't know, like, I don't even want to pay this like $250. Like, I just want you to cover it. And just like, I'm like, hey man, like, I don't want to do this deal. He's like, come on, like, let's do it. Like, really wanted me to like follow through on it. And I was just like, I just realized it's just a terrible idea. And that's like a scarcity thing, right? Because I was like, oh my God, this guy wants to work with me. Like, let's just like work together, right? And I think maybe someone who didn't have like the financial position I had would have been like, yeah, let's do it, right? To me, like, I never optimized for money anymore, because I did that in my first like career, my little project management business. And I was like so sad. Like, it's just like, I want to actually enjoy learning and like doing the things I'm doing and like working with my clients. Right. So now I optimize for enjoyment. Like the money kind of just comes as long as you show up every day, is what I found so far.
That's really interesting. It's like you're optimizing for the input, not the output. The output just happens.
Yes. That's kind of how I've been operating in the last like 6 months, which is like different than what I used to do. And it just like feels way more aligned. Like I get up every day and I'm like excited to like work on these things, because I'm like, I can really help these businesses and they don't have to do shit manually anymore,
Yeah. Fax the 500th piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. The 0.05% revenue share. That's an X for anybody that's listening that was considering doing that.
Yeah. Do not do that, please.
Dividend purchases. You got any more? Just while we're on the topic.
I have one where like I sent a guy a Loom video, showed him how to solve his problem. It's like a VC, and he hops on the call with me, and he's like, yeah, like, you really know what you're doing. Like, why don't I like give you access? I just kind of like explained to him like how to do it. He's like, okay, yeah, like I'll pay for it, and like I'll pay you tomorrow, and like give you a review and like everything like that. Never heard from the guy again. So like, it's like that felt kind of gross in a sense, It's just like, oh man, I feel used, but whatever, it is what it is.
Man, I gotta say, don't get me wrong. Giving value is incredible and it's amazing. And I think that that's just the way to operate today. But when you do give enough value, there will be some people out there that will take advantage of you. I can't tell
Yeah.
you the number of times I've sent some super, super detailed proposal. And in it, I say something along the lines of, hey, here's how I would do your project if I could. And, I want to do it for you, but here's exactly what I would do. And then they just, they disappear. They hire somebody off of Fiverr or something for $7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm just left in the dust.
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer it that way, because I prefer to work with people that really like working with me, that,
Right.
are stoked to, that see the benefit of the value-driven approach on job one, and then think, holy crap, if this guy's giving me this much value before I've even started working with him, how much value is he going to give me when, we actually sign a deal, right?
Exactly.
It also gets into that congruence thing that you talked about where, you focus on giving and solving and getting really stoked about the sort of work that you do, and then everything else sort of falls into place. I feel like that's important.
Yeah, and being willing to tell your clients their idea is bad is huge too. I think a lot of people, especially starting out, are scared to do that. There's the guy that I got referred to. He wanted the same setup for his business, but just it didn't have enough traffic, right, for the types of leads he was getting, and it didn't make sense. And he was going to pay me a bunch of money to build the same thing. I was like, no. That doesn't make sense. Let's do $100. It'll take me 20 minutes to build this automation. And I built this automation. I was like, look, we can just do a little MVP, pilot it, see if it actually provides value. And then if it does, we can build the whole big system. And it turned out it didn't make sense to do the big system. But now that client is paying me by far the most money out of all my other clients, right? So being willing to not take $1,000 but take $100 just in that one moment led to all this other stuff on the back end. So
yeah, if you didn't have that stability, if you weren't in a position where you could actually say, hey, I don't need that $100 right now, and I think that that's leading to 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 over the course of the next 6 months, you wouldn't have been able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So on a meta level, it's all incentive alignment. And, if you don't get yourself in those really sketchy situations that we were talking about, some of the unfortunate souls that join my programs, you're able to align your incentives with the clients, not necessarily just yours. You don't just have to be oh my God, $100. Okay, let's grab it, right? Really quickly before this opportunity runs out, even if it doesn't actually lead to any benefit on the client end. And you know what? That guy probably saw that. You know what's really interesting? What I found is you get higher and higher pitches, bigger ticket projects. Some people actually do this sort of stuff on purpose. I know this sounds weird, but some big business hotshots actually seed with problems that they know aren't worth solving, to see if you're the sort of person that can call them out on their bullshit. It's hey, is this just a yes man that's going to do everything for me? Or is this somebody, I think this person's intelligent. I think this person's really keen. Yeah. Maybe I could work with them long term. But are they going to just tell me what I want to hear? Or are they going to be hey man, this makes no sense, and this is what I would do if I were you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think of that. they play that game. They're qualifying you in a sense instead of you qualifying them.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you've done a pretty solid job outlining the journey. You got a couple Upwork jobs to start. From there, you kind of bundle that into referrals. Have you tried other lead generation strategies aside from that? And if so, what have you gone through?
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up joining another coaching program as well back in November-ish. And it was my main lead generation strategy has been relationship building and just providing so much value to people that they're just know me now as in this community that I'm in, as the automation and project management systems guy. So in that community, they have an AI use case call every week. And there's a guy that hosts it. And then I would join it every week. But then I ended up somehow becoming a co-host. It's just every week he's Emir, what do you think? And it's just I'd be oh, this is what I did for a client. This is what I would do now. All this stuff. So somehow I ended up becoming a co-host, and then the whole community views me as the expert now. So then they all just come to me inbound, or, I'll reach out to them, just have a talk like this, it's hey, let's get to know each other. And then they're oh, I actually need this. Can you help me with this?
Dude, that's cool as hell. It's almost like social media, just on a really small niche scale, with a bunch of people that are have a problem that you could solve.
Yeah, it's a community of my ICP, which is crazy, right? So it's just it's not, I'm scraping a bunch of leads and all this stuff and sending them a bunch of emails. It's just I'm having one-to-one conversations. The best part is, now that I've signed some of them as my clients, they are now my salespeople in the community. So they're up at all hours of the night because they're business owners that someone will post hey, I need help with this. And then they're Emir's the guy. He made my systems work so well. It's so it's I have these built-in salespeople now too, which is super interesting. They're just my clients. So
Oh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That's like leveraging. Yeah, that's leveraging people. It's like Naval says, right?
Yeah.
There's code, media, and then people, and that's
Yeah.
like the third.
Yeah.
Selling while you sleep, dude.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned this because I think that's lost on a lot of people that try in Maker School now. I talk about three primary lead generation methods. There's like cold email, and I show you and I teach you how to do it. Upwork, I show you to teach you how to do it. And then there's communities.
Hmm.
And like a lot of people struggle with the community stuff. And I think it's because they don't understand what you hit the nail on the head of back there. That it's about relationship building and giving like dummy amounts of value without expecting anything in return. Then
Hmm.
leveraging that to become an authority within the group. Then once you're an authority, you inherently have, as you mentioned, people selling for you, people reaching out to you. You're trusted, you're vetted. So that's really cool. Do you take any sort of like systematic approach to this stuff? Or is it just like I don't know, you pop up to the weekly call, you like reply to posts and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's pretty much like part of my flow of like checking my LinkedIn, and then Slack communities are in there and like stuff like that. So I'll just check, see what people are talking about, and then join that call and answer questions. There isn't like I'm like necessarily bringing things. I did get the opportunity to do a guest coaching call though. So that was
Mm.
cool on project management systems. So bringing in, some of the stuff I learned from my experiences with ClickUp back in the day from like 2017 and like through to now. And then stuff I learned from you with like the automation piece and stuff. So I'm sharing that with the group. And then, yeah, I got some leads from that. Yeah, it's just like becoming friends with people, providing a lot of value, doing some free work as well. That is the other thing I offer is someone will be like, oh, like, I don't know how to do this automation. I'm like, just like, give me your account. Like, let me take care of this for you. And then, like,
Give me that
I
social
pick it up.
insurance number. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, exactly. And then they're like, okay, now like, I want to still work with you. Like, what can we do? It's like, okay, like let's do this, a retainer or a fixed price project or whatever the case may be, right? So
You got the vibe, man. You got the vibe to like crush it in the modern day knowledge economy. All of the people that I've hired, every single one has done exactly that. They just like, hey, I think you're suffering from this. Do you want me to fix it for you? Let me fix it for you. I'll do it for free. Here's a bunch of free shit. Just take it. I don't expect anything in return. And then you're just so
yeah,
overwhelmed and like drowning in value that I'm like, oh man, I feel like I have to pay this guy something.
yeah. It just like comes naturally to me. I don't know. The money ends up being a byproduct, but obviously I'm running a business. I want to make a lot of money. That's true, but like it's just the approach is different.
It comes naturally. It must be just a Saskatoon thing.
Must be.
All the
We have nothing
Saskatoon
better to do
berries.
but just provide free value.
That and potash.
Yeah.
Just busting your balls. Okay, if we could narrow down the systems that you build primarily, then I don't know, like 2 or 3 categories, what would you say they are? Out of all the possible systems, like what is Emir building for the most part?
Project management systems and CRMs primarily. Right now, I'm like even helping companies like implement HubSpot right now, for example. So it's like,
Gotcha.
so it's not even like just,
Dude, it's just so many thoughts there because earlier you were like HubSpot. What the hell's a HubSpot? Like
yeah,
that was part of your journey, right?
yeah.
And now you're just like, oh yeah, this is all I do, baby.
Well, I did leave out one part actually that something you touch on a lot was when we were working with that consultant who was helping us implement Salesforce. There was something I really like noticed. It was like a light bulb in my head where it was like, we would ask him like, what are business best practices? Like, how can we like leverage this to make more money in the business and like all this stuff. And the guy was just like so technical. He's like, I know how to like put the properties in, but like, I don't know anything about business. Right. So I think there is that level where I like had a light bulb in my head where I was like, why can't I be the guy who's both technical and understands business? Why can't I do that? Like that would bridge so many gaps here. And like, it would make for a way better client experience as if I was that consultant. And now I am that consultant, right? So I think there's that aspect where I was like, that like really flipped the switch in my head where I was like, why can't a person do both?
Right. Like, there's this false dichotomy almost, this thing in like the business consciousness that like, well, if you're a business guy, you're not a tech guy. And if you're a tech guy, you're not a business guy. But really, with the convergence of all these technologies and like the simplification with AI and like drag and drop no code, there's really no reason why you can't be. You don't need to go to computer science school, like you were saying earlier, for like freaking 6 years anymore to like get a grasp of this stuff. Just drag and drop, baby.
Literally, so that was speaking of drag and drop, it's like, I made my first internet money with dragging and dropping modules around. Like that's crazy when you like say that out loud. It's like wild.
Yeah, dude. And like, then it comes through like a tiny little tube and deposits in your bank account. Yeah, it's
like this is real. Wow.
The like zooming out, just how crazy it is that we could do all this stuff is nuts. Like
Yeah.
um Yeah, man, that's dope. The CRMs and the project management stuff is cool. What I like about you, man, is you're talking about the lead gen approach that you're taking, which is non-standard in the community. Probably like less than 10% of people achieve success using the method that you're talking about. The vast majority of them are like cold email and Upwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then you talk about a deliverable and service that not a lot of people do, which is project management and CRMs. Because, I don't know, they just seem like it's inherently not sexy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you're crushing it with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're really like showcasing how possible it is to do a lot of the things that might not be as sexy on the surface, but that do drive a lot of results for clients, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to see.
For sure. I did give cold email a shot. I think I paid for Smartly like for like 3 months before I like started actually using it, which I was just like scared. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't even know how to write copy. Like, what is this? I ran a campaign. I got some responses. I sent some loon videos back. Like, nothing ever really came of it. And like, I am looking to start doing that again now that I'm more established with some of these existing clients. I'm like, I watch a lot of your videos and you're like, growth solves all the problems. And I'm like, okay, I gotta get back out there, you know? So it's like dating. It's like I've kind of stopped dating as much, but I'm like, I gotta like, get back on like, I would say cold email is like the Tinder of like outreach, It's like there's
That's great. Yeah, I mean, you actually got a point.
yeah.
What's your pickup line going to be? I'll build you a CRM.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Dude, I love that. I feel like I should change part of the program to include that. Like cold emails like Tinder, but for money.
Yeah.
But actually, Tinder is Tinder, but for money for some people too. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you ever have any times during this process that you just wanted to quit? That you were like, man, this is way too hard. I'm in way over my head. There's no way I could do this.
Not really, to be honest. Like, I don't want to like lie to you and say I did, but like, no, like there wasn't really anywhere where I was like, I wanted to quit along the way. I think there is this overcoming, like you got to kind of go through the outreach thing. I think that's the hardest part of this whole process, like learning make.com, like you said, you could probably figure out in like a couple weeks. But like the actual outreach thing, like I think back in December, I made $200. Like that was it because I spent the whole month figuring out how to make a website on like Framer. Like, it's just like so stupid. Like, it's just like, what am I doing? And then, but like, this was like something like you would tell yourself in your head, like, I gotta have the perfect website. And like, even though like people say like, don't do that, but like, you still, for whatever reason, you feel like you're compelled. You're like, I have to. They're not going to trust me if I send them a cold email. I don't have a website. Like, what are they going to say, So it's just like all this like crazy, like mental gymnastics you do in your head. So I would say like, there was times like that where, you're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not making money? Why am I not talking to people? It's like, because you're not talking to people. That's why you're not talking to people. Right. So very important.
100%, dude. I'm glad that you touched on that. I can't tell you how much silly bullshit I used to do instead of talk to customers. I would spend like dozens of like weeks, months just touching up random things. Oh, my LinkedIn profile isn't good enough. It's like, bro, nobody's seen it. You could open up a window, yell, and you'd reach more people than that LinkedIn profile reaching over the course of the last couple months. Like that shit ain't working. You got to just like send those DMs, man. You got to get out there and join those communities, right?
Yeah.
So I feel you. All right. So I feel like I got a picture of your business and your journey and stuff like that. So, $12,500 in the last 30 days. What's next, I guess, for the business? Like, where do you want to take it into the future? We've discussed the past, but let's look forward.
Yeah. So I'm looking to basically, it's funny how I didn't mention how like I ended up more in this CRM and project management system stuff. It was like initially I was like selling these like custom automations of like whatever people bottleneck pain point was. I was like, oh, you need this. And twice in 1 week I had sold automations and they both came back to me and said, actually, I think I want ClickUp first. Cause I told them, I was like, you should probably have like a central source of truth and a place to like manage all your work because like the way you guys are doing this is like chaos. I told both prospects that, and they both paid the invoice. And then like an hour later, both sent me emails and were like, hey, I actually want the project management system first. So I was just like, I guess this is what I do now. I just do project management systems. And it's been very successful. I think I want to stick in that lane where it's like, I want to come into a business, set them up with a project management system if they don't have one, then look at bottlenecks, theory of constraints like you talk about. And that fractional COO stuff makes sense to me. Like, I feel like that's where I want to be, where it's essentially like I'm a partner in your business and helping you implement tech and just like eliminate bottlenecks so you can focus on like your sales and growing your business overall as like the CEO. right? So
Mm,
that's kind of where I'm positioning myself. I'm also looking to build out an intro offer of like, if you don't have a CRM or project management system, like here's templatized for most marketing agencies or digital agencies that'll work. And I'll give you like videos on how to use it properly and like how to check in on it every day and like manage it and all that stuff. So I'm thinking about doing that as well. So that's kind of the next steps in the evolution, taking what I've
gotcha.
learned so far and then building that product in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like productizing, templatizing, more leveraged consulting. You're not looking to hire, I guess, in the near term. You're looking to sort out this offer first.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's the game plan.
Nice, man. Well said. I usually recommend people do this in lieu of hiring because I think we've all heard over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, at least our generation, Amir. It's like the second that um, hit a certain amount of money, delegate, throw that project away. Like you shouldn't be minding yourself with tiny little things like that. You're better than this. But there's actually so much value in instead of hiring immediately, try and build systems that allow you to make more money as a solopreneur or as a small team anyway. And then only when you really truly do hit the limit, aka the revenue ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
for yourself, then hire. Because when you're at that point, like a couple things happen. One, like, well, I'll eventually have to hire anyway. But when you hire, now you hire for a role where that person will be able to generate $50,000 of revenue for you, not just 5,000 or 10,000, because now you have systems for them to work with. And then two, you'll probably be able to hire like a better person because you're not going to be stuck, counting pennies
Right.
and pinching your wallet.
Yeah.
Like a big issue that I had when I was hiring for Left Click, which is the AI and automation agency.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, we just didn't really have too much money. Like, I was right around the size that you're at now. So this must have been like about $15,000 a month, something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm really running into the ceiling. I can't do anymore. Maybe 20 grand. I don't really entirely remember. But yeah, I was just like, oh man, like this person's $3,400 and that person's $3,700. Like, I'm going to hire the $3,400 one. And then like when you're forced to make these decisions, you end up with a shitty hire anyway. Then when you end up with a shitty hire, the shitty hire introduces more complexity in your business. And then you end up just like wasting a bunch of time because they ended up believing, they end up believing that it'll deliver. Anyway, the whole point I'm trying to make is don't even do any of that shit. You probably squeeze like $40,000, $50,000 a month with a template productized offer, Amir, changing literally nothing else than you're doing right now.
Right.
And when you get to that problem, then cross that bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with constraints, right? If you put those constraints on yourself and you're like, how can I actually, if I only had this much, time and money to do this work, how can I do this myself? And trying to figure out how you can actually do that is way more valuable than, like you said, hiring someone subpar. A big problem too, as I've heard you say and other people that I've talked to say, is like, it's hard to find people like ourselves that have that both they can think about business and can think about technology. It's like as soon as you give someone like, hey, build this automation, but if they can't tell you why it's, driving revenue or increasing leverage in a business or like why they're doing it, that's where it's like, okay, now I need two people. Now I need a business analyst and I need a developer. Like it starts getting way bigger, right? So,
And then also an interesting phenomenon is the more people in your team, the less of each of their attributable time goes towards solving problems, and the more of their time goes towards communicating between them. And
right.
communication time does not do anything for the client. The client doesn't see it. The client doesn't care about it. It's not value. So if you were at a business that was a solopreneur company like yours, I believe it's called Probotify.
Yeah.
100% of all the time Emir spends is time that he is spending delivering value to clients. And so he gets to charge and be compensated concomitant with that. But if it's Emir and somebody else, well, now 90% of Emir's time is towards the clients, but 10% is just chatting with his assistant or chatting with the engineer. Clients don't see any of that stuff, right? It's coordination. And coordination costs scale very, very drastically, which is unfortunate. First, that's cool as hell, man. I still have like a ton of questions that I want to ask you, but I do want to be mindful of time. So maybe I'll just ask you, let's hypothetically say Emir has to start at zero tomorrow and you lose all the connections that you have. You're not in any of these communities or whatever.
Yeah.
How would you approach process of starting an AI and automation company from scratch?
And I have no money.
No money.
No money.
Well, like a...
Can I buy Maker School?
Like a few $1,000. Man's asking the right questions. Of course you can buy Maker School.
Okay. Well, seriously, I would probably watch Nick's like Make Money with Make playlist. Like that would be a really good place to start. That's where I started. Like I'm being 100% serious. I'm not just like saying it because Nick's here. And then if you think you're serious, go to Upwork, apply to some jobs. I'm pretty sure you show how to set up a profile on YouTube too for free. Like I'm pretty sure you show a lot of that anyway. So like I'm pretty sure everything's out there if you follow some of Nick's videos. I would start there and just like, yeah, It's about showing up every day and just like doing the crappy part. It's like a mountain. You gotta just like go through it. And that's how I would start. It's just like showing up and applying to those jobs and making the Loom videos as much as it's, not comfortable to sit in front of a camera and talk and like all that stuff. Like you just gotta be uncomfortable.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of people are going to look at your eventual crazy success. If you made $12,500 in the last month with your AI automation agency, you might be making $50,000 a month in X months or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Obviously, you're a rising star, and I can tell just by the way that you speak that you're quite competent and good at what you do. But I think it'll be easy for a lot of people to look back at that and be like, "Oh, Amir figured it all out ahead of time. This was his strategy. He started with this, then he did this, and he did this." But in reality, what you did is you just dove into learning and then you put yourself out there and then you acquired some sort of feedback from a few of these initial clients and
Yeah.
small little projects. And then we're like, people like CRMs. Maybe I should do more CRMs. Then you said, okay, let me join a few communities, see how I can scale stuff. People are preferentially coming to me from the community. Maybe I should spend more time in the communities. The point I'm getting at is this is feedback over planning. If you're a
Yeah.
beginner and you're on the fences and you're like, oh my God, how do all these people have all this stuff figured out? The reality is none of them had anything figured out. They just got started and then through feedback, they ended up determining the right direction to continue moving in. So I feel like that applies pretty well to you too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But to be clear, from like June of last year into October, where I would argue I knew enough, and I did spend like some time in Europe at that time for vacation and stuff, but I would argue like I had the knowledge I needed to like go, and like go do what I needed to
Mm.
do. But like I just didn't act. And you know how much money I made in that time? Zero, negative dollars because I was paying for like Framer and Smartlead and all this random stuff. Like, like it was just like I lost money. Make, like all this stuff. So like I think there's something to be said is like you're never gonna know everything. I think people need to understand that. It's like you just have to decide one day, it's like this is enough and I'm gonna figure it on the fly. Like you have AI, you have Google, like everything's out there at your fingertips now. Like if you can't figure out how to do some kind of API connection, like you'll figure it out. Like especially if someone pays you money, like you have no choice but to figure it out.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's motivating as hell, I think,
Yeah.
especially to the people that are like still afraid to kind of put that foot down and take that first step. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
One more thing on that point. I see a lot in our community, people will come up with problems before their problems. And I just really wanted to touch on that, where they'll be like, okay, what if I apply to an Upwork job and I start talking to them and they'll like change the scope dramatically and like they want like 10 more things. Like, can I like change the price? Is that okay? Like, or like, am I just stuck at like that little price I gave them because I didn't know all this other stuff? And it's like that is not a problem you need to solve right now. Like the first step is like you need to apply to that job and then like maybe they'll answer your proposal and then maybe you'll hop on a call and then like you'll figure it out in the moment. Like, but before then, like this is not a problem you should be stressing yourself with.
100%. Another really interesting and related thing to that is people qualifying all their leads ahead of time. So I'm talking specifically about cold email, but I can't tell you the number of people that come to me and say something like, "Hey, my ICP is exactly this, and so I'm looking for people with revenues of $500,000 to $1 million a month, and those are exactly the customers I want." And then in reality, you can't actually do all of that targeting ahead of time. So because you can't, the implementation is very difficult, and they don't end up getting started. In reality, what you can do is you could just talk to a ton of people, whether it's on Upwork or cold email or whatever, and then when people say yes to you, you could figure all that shit out later. You could find out how much money they make later. You could qualify at the end, not at the beginning. The problem is not a problem until it becomes a problem. When the person is on the phone saying, "No, I don't make 500,000," Do you
Yeah.
kind of get my point? So
Yeah.
this is a more, I think, central. It's like a more fundamental paradigm shift. And I wish there was this. Maybe there is a simple and easy way to just state this in a way that beginners understand. I've been trying for the better part of a year, and I've been able to. But Amir, you're good with words, man. Maybe you got it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think there's also value in having those reps, right? So like this whole unqualified qualified thing, it should even be a question in the beginning. Like
Mhm.
your whole role is to just like get in front of customers, figure out what their problems are and see if you can solve them. And like they'll pay you something for it. Like it doesn't matter how much it is, but like as long as they pay you something at the beginning. Then the qualification stuff, when you start getting like too much work and all this stuff, that's when like it starts to matter. I think that's more important for beginners, in my opinion, because they haven't been exposed to business owners and working with different types of people, right? So
Yeah, cross that bridge when you get to it, in a nutshell. Emir, awesome having you on, man. Anything else you'd like to say just before we wrap up?
No, it's awesome to have the opportunity to speak and talk about my journey, and I'm looking forward to sending you a DM when I'm at 50K a month.
Can't wait to see it, man.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for coming by. Looking forward to that, man.
yeah,
Peace.
sounds good.